One of the key factors that helped Blue Origin win the contract was its collaboration with other aerospace companies, including Boeing and Lockheed Martin. These companies have decades of experience in building spacecraft and systems for NASA, and they brought their expertise and resources to the Blue Origin-led team. For example, Lockheed Martin was responsible for developing the ascent element of the lander, which would carry the astronauts from the lunar surface back to orbit. Boeing was in charge of the transfer element, which would maneuver the lander from a lunar orbit to a low lunar orbit. Draper provided the guidance, navigation and control systems for the lander, while Astrobotic and Honeybee Robotics contributed to the payload and surface operations. By working with these established partners, Blue Origin was able to offer a more reliable and cost-effective solution than its competitor, Dynetics. Dynetics also teamed up with other companies, such as Northrop Grumman, but its lander design was more complex and risky. It proposed a single-stage lander that would use drop tanks to reduce mass during descent and ascent, but this would require precise timing and coordination of multiple engines. NASA evaluated Dynetics' proposal as having a high probability of failure and a low probability of meeting the schedule and budget requirements. Blue Origin's lander design was more conventional and modular, consisting of 3 elements: a descent element, an ascent element and a transfer element. The descent element was based on Blue Origin's own New Glenn rocket, which is still under development but expected to launch later this year. The ascent element was derived from Lockheed Martin's Orion spacecraft, which has already flown around the Moon on NASA's Artemis I mission. The transfer element was adapted from Boeing's Phantom Express vehicle, which was originally designed for the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. Blue Origin's lander also had some innovative features, such as using liquid hydrogen as fuel, which could be extracted from lunar ice in the future. It also had a large habitable volume for the astronauts, a flexible landing site selection capability and a reusable architecture that could support multiple missions. By combining its own technology with that of its partners, Blue Origin was able to convince NASA that its lander was the best choice for the Artemis V mission, which is scheduled to launch in 2029. This mission will be the third crewed landing on the Moon after Artemis 3 and 4, which will use SpaceX's Starship vehicle. Blue Origin's lander will carry 2 astronauts to the Moon's South Pole region, where they will explore the terrain and conduct scientific experiments. Blue Origin's victory in the SLD program was a major milestone for the company, which had faced several delays and setbacks in its space endeavors. It also marked a comeback for Bezos, who had personally offered to cover $2 billion in NASA costs in exchange for a lunar lander contract after losing out to SpaceX in 2021. With this contract, Bezos and his company have secured their place in NASA's ambitious plan to return humans to the Moon and beyond. Blue Origin's lunar lander contract is for NASA's planned third lunar landing, Artemis V, which is currently set to launch in September 2029. This is a significant achievement for Jeff Bezos' space company, which had lost the previous contract to SpaceX in 2021. Blue Origin had challenged NASA's decision to award the sole contract to SpaceX, arguing that it was unfair and risky to rely on a single provider. NASA then decided to open a second competition for another lunar lander, which Blue Origin won by partnering with other aerospace companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin. The Blue Origin lander is designed to take 2 astronauts to the Moon's South Pole region, where they will explore the lunar surface and conduct scientific experiments. The mission will be part of NASA's Artemis program, which aims to establish a sustainable human presence on the Moon and prepare for future missions to Mars. Blue Origin's lander will not be ready for the first moon landing during Artemis 3, which is scheduled for late 2025 or early 2026 and will use SpaceX's Starship system. Instead, Blue Origin's lander will debut on Artemis V, which will be the third crewed mission to land on the Moon after more than half a century since the last Apollo mission in 1972.